Hey guys, it's Francine Simone, and today I am here with a book review on Truthwitch by Susan Dennard. Okay guys, so I'm just going to jump right into it. As you know, I review books based on whether they're quality, based on three things: character, plot, and world building. I leave writing style and stuff like that out of it because it's very subjective. You know, what I may like, you may dislike. And at the end, I will give you a recommendations list of whether you may like it or not, depending on what your preferences are or what they're not. So let's just jump right into it. Characters. So in this book, we follow like four character point of views. Safia, which is this girl right here on the cover. She's kind of your badass, like she does things before she thinks about them type. Then we've got Isolde, which is more of your broody type of woman, and they've got like a girl friendship going on, girl bonds. And then we've got two dudes, Merrick, who is a prince, who's clearly, you know, the gotta fight for my kingdom type, but I'm also gonna fall in love with that hot chick right there in the cover. And then we've got a kind of villain-esque character, Aiden. Aduin. Now, as far as characters go in this book, what was a little difficult for me to digest is the fact that these characters have a lot of external things going on, but not too many internal things. And the internal issues that they do have going on in this book, Isolde is maybe one of the most interesting. However, everyone else, their internal problems are driven by kind of the external plot, and it feels very puppeteer-like. You'll know what I'm laughing at if you've read this book. And I said puppeteer, like. If I had to give it like a 1 to 5 on a star scale, I'd probably give it like a 3.5. Like the characters were there, they did things, but they weren't completely solid because they didn't have a lot of internal issues that they really worked through on a personal level in conjunction with the plot. And I think the key word here is conjunction with the plot. So I'm going to move into that and talk about plot and character at the same time. So the plot, I felt like, was very external. It was very, things are happening to these people. There's a lot of chase scenes. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. And the world's moving. It's moving fast. But for some reason, these people are the key to a lot of things. Even though they're not really players on the board, they're just pieces being moved. And it felt very Game of Thrones-esque, where we've got different points of views going on and stuff like that. But the skill level was not good enough to execute. My main issue with plot on this is essentially that it all happened in the background and these girls are just running from everything. Isolde was the only one who had some interesting things going on that she was directly a part of, and even in some cases we still don't know how that unfolds. I guess that'll happen in the second book. But I felt that I was more compelled to her storyline because her storyline had more of a balance between internal and external plots. Whereas Safi, hers was straight up external. Did she have flaws? Yes, she had many flaws. In fact, she was very stupid. But a lot of the natural consequences that come with the flaws that she has didn't really play out because the external plot was the plot moving at hand. So all of her consequences didn't really play into the plot that well. I mean, by page 50, I was confused by what's going on. Page 200, I was still really confused by what's going on. And then by the end of it, I was like, okay, well, I see a lot more of what's going on, but wow, it was really convoluted when I think it was meant to be complex. So let's talk about world really quick. This book suffered from lack of culture. The world building was like a lot of data dumping of names and places and ideas, and there's this whole like magic element going on with these witches and what they can do. Yet there was no cultural impact on the characters whatsoever. Like, honestly, these characters could have been from anywhere in the world. Isolde was the only one who had cultural ties that were different from the other main characters, but the other main characters were also from different parts of the world, the main kind of continent, maybe. See what I mean? Like, I was really confused with how this world worked culturally, and everything seemed to be like within walking distance. Like the one city they were in, I was like constantly looking at the map and I'm like, I don't understand. Like they'd be walking for a day and they're here, or they'd be riding for a day and they're here, or they're in the ocean for a day and then some people be like, oh, let's go catch them, and they do. I'm confused. I mean, I get it. They have like witch powers and stuff like that, but it just didn't really click. I think the main problem is like with George R.R. Martin, he understands that time is a huge thing, that worlds are far apart, that cultures are far apart, and the farther you are from someone, the more likely you are to be culturally different from them. and your ideas and mindset to be different. And there's usually deep-seated reasonings for all those things. And this book kind of lacked that. Everything was very close together and a lot of weird things were happening, and I just didn't understand most of the world at hand here. One character that really stood out, the kind of villainous guy, Adwin. This guy stood to gain the most when it came to complexity and moral ambiguity, yet his motivations, his internal motivations, weren't made clear very early on. And I think, a lot of authors try to use that for the element of surprise or something, to surprise people into things and making things more complex and more crazy. But they don't realize that the more you let on in the beginning about people and about their internal motivations, the more complex it becomes naturally later on in the story, because we know that this person feels this or that way. And so now we're looking to see which way they're going to lean every time they come across a problem. And that didn't happen. It was really disappointing. And I was like, boo. Now, with all that being said, I loved the writing style of this. It was very easy and very basic. And I don't mean basic like, oh, she basic. I mean basic as in like, there's not a lot of poetry in the writing. And I appreciate that because I'm not a huge poetic writer type person. Like, I love every occasional poetic like thing being said, but I love very voicey, character driven stuff. So when the actual writing style is basic, the character voice comes through a lot more, and that's where you can kind of display a lot more cultural impact of things. So that's why I love basic writing, because the more flowery it gets, the more distant it becomes from the character, I notice, and the more I'm just like, oh my god, this bitch be talking about this again. And so I love that. Now, however, even though the writing style was amazing and I liked it personally, the skill set of the storytelling was lacking. And, I don't really talk about that much, but writing style and storytelling are two very completely different things. And a lot of authors come at it as one thing. And so, just because something is written nicely doesn't mean that the storytelling is necessarily there, or that because the storytelling is nice doesn't mean that the writing style will necessarily be there for you personally. That's why writing style to me is completely separate from storytelling, even though storytelling comes through writing style. It's complex, it's all connected, but they are very different. Anyways, the storytelling skill in this was just not where it needs. However, I did feel like there was promise, because I felt like as the book was going, However, I did feel like there was promise. Probably because subjectively I liked it, even though it just was really hitting the subpar level. So I'm going to go ahead and get into recommendations about whether you would like this book or not. And then let me know down in the comments of whether or not you'd like a breakdown of this book. Anyways, I would recommend this to people who like easy fantasy stuff. If you like Sarah J. Maas's stuff, you'll probably really like this book. In fact, they're friends, and that almost made me not read this book. So I was definitely side-eyeing it, but I did actually enjoy it. So if you like easy kind of fantasy, like Throne of Glass or the Akamoth thing, you probably will like reading this. It's very easy to get into. It's also really fast-paced because there's a lot of chase stuff. However, if you are used to very high fantasy, I would not pick this up. If you really like stuff like George R. R. Martin, you're going to be disappointed by this because, again, the level of storytelling, the skill is just not there, so you are going to feel gypped. Especially for as long as it is. It's like 400-something pages. And you just be waiting for it to get complex instead of convoluted, and it don't happen. So guys, overall, I gave Truthwitch like a 3.5 star, but I really like it. I'll probably read the second one, maybe. However, I would read a second or a new series started by her to see if her storytelling has gotten better, because I do think that she has a lot of potential, and she's a really, 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 really promising writer. And honestly, give it a try. Give it a try. In the first 50 pages, if you're not liking it, put it down. Put it down and just wait. Put it down for another time. But if you pick it up and in the first 50 pages, you're like, I love this. I love these characters. I love this. I love that. Just read it. I mean, it's fun, but it does have its shortcomings. Okay, guys, so that's it for the review on Truthwitch. I'm going to be doing Poison Study next, so keep an eye out for that. And also, I'm entertaining a live Q&A for my cover reveal of my second book, Darkness Comes at Dawn. So if you have any questions, about writing, about my books, about anything on my channel, whatever, I don't care what you have questions about. If you would like a Q&A, just, let me know down below that you're interested. And also let me know if Truthwitch is on your TBR or if you've already read it and what your thoughts were. So until next time, guys, T2IL to top for now. Bye!